This epidemic is only getting worse, and is only claiming more and more innocent victims. It's hard to imagine how horrible it must be to feel like this. The isolation, the fear, the constant feeling of inadequacy. Over the past few years, we've seen the American people have enough and want to stand up and do something. The one case that has truly sparked the attention of the American people is the death of Tyler Clemente. This case started a firestorm of outrage in the mainstream media.
Done a lot of reporting over the years on bullying, but in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a number of new, heartbreaking examples of just how dangerous it could be.
I am devastated over the death of 18-year-old Tyler Clemente. If you don't know, Tyler was a bright student at Rutgers University whose life was senselessly cut short.
Now we're dealing with the wild, wild web, and the gunslingers are keyboard bullies.
If you're getting bullied and you're feeling like you're on the outskirts, that it gets better.
One life lost in this senseless way is tragic. 4 lives lost is a crisis. Things will get easier, people's minds will change, and you should be alive to see it.
And it's so tragic. I mean, it really is tragic because his roommate had no business outing him. It was not his roommate's decision, right? Should have been Tyler's. The coverage was that it was an issue of cyberbullying rather than homophobia. And I think that is a big issue when we talk about coverage, when we talk about media reporting, is that we're not looking at the underlying issue. Okay, yeah, so you got technology, you got somebody who can buy a, $15 webcam and then post it to YouTube. Like, but why?
I think homophobia is alive and well. Just this morning I was watching a documentary, an interview with Jamie Rodemeyer. He recently completed suicide, a 14-year-old in Buffalo. And again, he maybe about a year ago came out. He was actually in a public service announcement on the site It Gets Better, but apparently took his life just a few days ago. And in his case, his parents definitely believe that it was related to victimization that he was facing as a result of his sexual orientation.
Studies have been done that show that LGBTQ youth have a higher rate of suicide attempts than those of their heterosexual peers. Roughly between 30 and 40% of LGBTQ youth, depending on age and sex groups, have attempted suicide. A government study found that LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than other young people. The reasoning behind why LGBTQ youth might attempt suicide more than their other peers may be related to something that is known as minority stress. In this great land of ours, I can't imagine what could possibly be stressing them out.
It's a shame to be an American where the flags can freely roll.
Quote, in every society, the definition of marriage has not ever, to my knowledge, included homosexuality. That's not to pick on homosexuality. It's not, man on child, man on dog, or whatever the case may be.
Say, I, Brian.
I, Brian.
Confess to Christ.
Confess to Christ.
I have committed homosexual acts.
I have committed homosexual acts.
If we were going to go on a crusade across the nation and try to do away with the homosexuals, then we certainly would have done it on June the 8th after one of the most overwhelming victories in the country. We're met with protest and all kinds of problems. And
Well, bullying is a pervasive problem, not just with youth, but as youth are my focus. It's not something that has gone away. I think there's an attitude now that since GLBT folks seem to be more accepted now, that it's less of an issue. And I can tell you as recent as 3 months ago, I had young adults running in here because they were being gay bashed for walking down the street and holding hands.
One of the most frequent ways for boys to bully other boys is to call them gay or fag or queer. And there are some research studies out there that show that when boys are being bullied, they're gay baited, which means that's what's happening to them. Kindergarten, first, second grade, when kids call somebody a name, the most frequent name that they call them is stupid. By the time they're in second grade, they say gay or fag, is what they tell them, even though they don't know what it means.
Well, I mean, homophobia is always one of the linchpins of bullying, not only because it's the way that you shut someone up, you know, that's okay, don't be gay, and so the person stops complaining about whatever it is, but it also, and it shames the person, and so it does two things. It silences people and it shames them.
If students are, you know, targeting someone, you know, the two things you usually hear are either comments that liken them to a woman disparagingly, so that they're like a sissy, or a variety of other terms, or that they're a fag or gay, you know, and that those things obviously, you know, to be a fag or to be gay is also to be like feminized or like a woman.
It seems that homophobic epithets are what are thrown the most when it comes to cyberbullying. It starts with, hey faggot, hey queer. I mean, you don't even have to be gay to be or queer in any way to be a victim of homophobic bullying, because you could just be perceived as. You could be a little bit too effeminate or maybe a little too butch, and people get scared of what they can't identify.
I mean, it's one of the things that adults have a really hard time understanding, is that homophobia and bullying absolutely they intertwine. And I mean, bullying really is about how we degrade people in the most root ways possible, about class and money and race and homophobia, religion, ethnicity. It is about degradation and bigotry.
You're 14, you're gay, you're not out, and you go online, and there's an entire universe of people who validate you, who support you, who say, you are fine just as you are.
Start doing research on the internet and see what else is out there as far as groups, because almost everybody has a webpage now. Almost everybody has some kind of listing that you can find online. If you're not too far outside of the metropolitan area, the city area where you're living, you know, contact your local GLBT center.
I think that more and more individuals who say, you know what, this is an issue that I care about right now, and I feel motivated to address, and I need to figure out what the best way to do that is. How can I be supportive if I'm in a community with young people?
When you wait until there's a problem and then you try to fix it, when you see it coming, you should have something in place to support what needs supported before it becomes a huger issue, before it becomes this increased suicide rate. They don't have support, they're stressed out, they're depressed, they're getting into drugs, which is a normal adolescent thing, but even more so, I feel, than normal because of all these extra stresses and not having enough support in the community, at home, or in school.